Once the faculty, anyone has to only record, not two people. So if two people are recording simultaneously, it gets overlapped and does not get recorded properly. Okay, I have started it. So further, we have seen with the introduction of the Indian Contract Act and how the law or the particular act has came into existence. What is the concern with respect to the similarity of Indian concepts and British concept with respect to the ICA, that is Indian Contract Act, that is there into existence. Further, we have also dealt with the various definitions that have been provided as per Section 2H of ICA of 1872, which defines it as an agreement which is enforceable by law. So for any agreement or for a particular contract to be called as a perfectly legal valid contract, it has to be a certain concern that there must be an agreement between the parties, and that particular act or that particular agreement must be enforceable by law, wherein at any place or point of time there should be law into existence. Unless and until there is no law into existence, we cannot call that particular agreement as a perfectly legal valid agreement. Second, that definition that was been provided by Salmon, an agreement creating and defining the obligations between the parties. So in which way, how the creation and definition of obligations between the parties, that is either the rights, the duties and the liabilities of the parties can be agreed upon, it can be raised off, or the particular persons can be held liable. All these things were been agreed, and accordingly based on that particular agreement, the contract was been created. So hence, if there is a contract between these particular parties, we can say that the agreement is into existence and the liabilities is also into existence. Then with respect to the Salmon, we have seen the basic essential requirements of a contract with respect to two parties, an agreement and legal obligation. Further, the next slide or the next concept focuses on very important perspective, that is essential elements of a valid contract. When a particular contract can be called as a perfectly legal valid contract, and what are the basic essential requirements. All the particular 10 points that has been explained here are the complete paragraph or a complete sentence, wherein if any one single essential element is not been fulfilled, then a contract cannot be called as a perfectly legal valid contract. So in order to your contract be a perfectly legal and valid, all the essential elements must be fulfilled. It is a double inverted commas quotation, that is it must be fulfilled. First thing, two parties. Any contract which is there into existence, always there is a certain concern that the two parties must be into existence. After, whenever we say there are two parties into existence, whenever we say there are two parties into existence, at every stage we have to see that not when a single party is entering into a particular agreement. So if there is a single person who is entering into agreement, then that particular contract cannot be called as a perfectly legal valid contract. Second thing, we have seen with respect to an agreement that the agreement must be in a written format or it must be in a writing. So wherever you say if a particular agreement is either a handwritten agreement or a typed agreement, after a particular point of time, the parties who are involved into this particular contract, they must sign that agreement respectively. So all the parties to the contract, whether they are two parties, three parties, 5, 10 or 50 parties, each and every individual participant or the component or the party to the contract has to sign the agreement respectively. Next thing, now in terms of the parties, it is very essential, or it is very important that the parties must be competent. That is, they must be enough competent to enter into this particular contract. Here at this stage, the law will provide you the definition in a negative format, wherein the law gives you a certain definition about the parties who are not competent to enter into contract. But the law does not explain which person is competent to enter into particular contract. So in this way, there is a negative definition that has been provided by ICA, that is Indian Contract Act. Next thing, legal relationship at any stage or any point of time, whenever a particular contract is being entered between two parties or more than two parties, and if the agreement is into existence and the parties are also competent, then the relationship that has been created, that has been generated between these particular parties, it must be also in a legal format. That is, in terms of eyes of law, the law must presume that particular relationship in a legal way. Unless until the legal relationship is not proved, your contract cannot be treated as a perfectly legal valid contract. Again, a repetition. Yes.
सॉरी सर, कॉल होता याच्यावरनं आदितीचा मला.
May I know who is speaking?
हॅलो सर, ज्योती बोलते मी.
Aditi, who is Aditi?
I don't know, sir.
Okay, let it be, ma'am. No issues.
Okay.
Okay. The next concern is the concept of free consent. So as we have seen that the law valid contract, the Indian Contract Act provides you a definition with respect to the competency of parties in a legal way, in a negative way. In the same concern, the law provides you the definition of free consent in also in a negative way. That is, the consent is said to be free if it is not based on. So The Contract Act will not give you a definition about what is meant by consent or what is a free consent, but it will give you a definition of a certain consent wherein the consent is not said to be free. So while explaining the essential elements of a contract, you have to be very careful. You have to remember that two components, that is the competency of parties and the component of the free consent, they are being explained in a negative way, and the law does not provide you the definition in a positive way. Next, sixth point is the concern of lawful object. Lawful object means what is the purpose, what is the motive, and in for what purpose you are entering into this particular contract. So आपका objective क्या है, आपका purpose क्या है, आपका motive क्या है contract enter करने के लिए, agreement sign करने के लिए, it plays a very important role. I'll give you a generalized example to understand the purpose or the object of this particular contract. For example, you want to purchase a knife. Knife means एक particular चाकू. Now आपको एक particular knife purchase करना है, and what are the various objects through which a particular knife can be purchased. First concern, for example, a particular doctor. A particular doctor may go to a medicine shop or to a particular concern, and he may purchase a knife which can be used for saving the lives of the people and which can be used for doing operation in the operation theater. Second example, a particular lady, that is who is a housewife. A particular housewife may go to a particular store, she can purchase a particular knife, and with this particular concern, she can use it into the kitchen for cutting the vegetables and so on. A particular chef who is a particular person who is by profession, he can purchase a particular knife and he can use this particular knife for his profession for designing the various food articles and designing the food articles and so on. So different people are using a single product, that is a single product is knife in a different format. Another example, a particular thief. Now this particular thief, he can use the same knife to cut the brackets, to cut the locks, to cut the grill, and accordingly he can get the particular amount that has been stolen. A particular person who is a murderer, a particular murderer person, he can use the same knife to stab someone and to kill someone. So a single object. Now what is the particular object? The object or the purpose or the motive of a knife is to just cut anything. But in what way it is being used by different people, that plays a very important role. So here in this case, essential elements of a valid contract gives you a certain understanding about what is your purpose, what is your motive, what is your objective of entering into this particular contract. So if I went to a particular trader, I went to a particular seller and I said that I want to purchase a knife, then you have to be very careful for what purpose, for what objective, for what motive the particular product is being purchased. If we go to a particular medicine shop now, or a particular chemist or a druggist, and if we ask for him a particular tablet for sleep, then accordingly he asks for the prescription. So without prescription, certain medicine is not been provided. Why? Because consumption of the sleeping pills or a sleeping dose is allowed by the law, but unless and until it is been prescribed by a medical practitioner or a particular doctor, that particular medicine cannot be given. So in this way, what is your object? Whether you are consuming this particular tablet for your medical purpose, health purpose, stressful purpose, for what purpose you are consuming a medical tablet or a particular strip, for that thing you have to identify. So in this way, what is the object of this particular contract, that also has to be seen. And if the object is perfect, legal and valid, only then the contract can be called as an essential or can be called as an valid contract. Next thing, consideration, lawful consideration. In simple terms, just to give you a smaller example or for your brief explanation, consideration means the amount that is being paid. Unless and until there is no monetary consideration at any stage or point of time, the contract cannot be treated as a perfectly legal valid contract. At any stage, every point of time, we have to see that there must be consideration. If the consideration is absent, if there is no amount of consideration into a particular contract or the particular agreement, then the agreement is not a valid agreement. Now whenever we say we are defining a legal relationship, then the legal relationship of an buyer and seller. Now a particular buyer or a particular seller, they will not exchange any goods and services at free of cost. There is no situation wherein a particular goods and services can or a transaction can be undertaken which is of a free nature or of a charity purpose. So at this stage, what happen, we have to see that there must be a proper consideration. You go to a particular shop and you say that I want to purchase a Bisleri water bottle. Now, in return, if you are receiving a particular water bottle of a Bisleri, in return, what you have to do, you have to pay him 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 40 rupees, whatever may be the charges for that particular mineral water. So in this way, what happens, consideration must be there into existence. The particular trader, that is the particular seller, will not give you the bottle of free of cost, and you are not going to ready to give him 30 rupees in case of 20 rupees. So proper consideration must
Sir,
be also
please speak in
full.
slow.
Next.
Sir, please speak slow.
Hello? Yes?
Slow, sir. Speak slow.
Slow? Hello, who is there?
Yeah. Arti.
This is the usual speed. The syllabus of legal aspects of business is very large, and as a management student, you have to be compatible with this speed. My speed is the usual. So please get acquainted with this. This is not my first lecture. In the regular course or duration of business
Okay,
point of
sir.
time, I use the same speed. Next thing, not declared as wise. So at any stage or point of time, the law provides you a certain list of agreements or list of contract, which specifically mentions about which are the different types of contract which are specifically declared as a void contract. Now, what is a void contract? A contract which is not enforceable by law. कोई भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अगर इस टाइप का है जिसमें आपको कायदे से कानून से उसका वैलिडिटी या एसेंशियल एलिमेंट्स आप उसको फाइंड आउट नहीं कर सकते, then that particular contract can be called as an void contract. So from the eyes of the law, from the terms of the eyes of the law, this particular contract cannot be treated as a perfectly legal valid contract, and hence this type of contract, there is an exhaustive list that has been provided. Now, what is that particular list? That will be coming further in terms of your short notes of void contract. So you have a separate short note on void contract, and under the purview of void contract, you will be able to understand which are the different types of contract or which are the different types of agreement which are specifically declared as void contract or. Next thing, legal formalities. Whatever the legal formalities that have been decided between the parties, all the legal formalities must be completed by the all parties to the contract. So if there are two parties, three parties, 5 or 10 or 50 or n number of parties to the contract, each and every individual single party must perform their promises respectively, and all the formalities which have been mentioned in this particular contract must be complied in full. If any of the composition, any of the condition is not been fulfilled, then at this stage we can say that the contract is not completed and the contract is still into existence. So in order to the contract to be completed, in order to contract to be called as a perfect legal and valid, you have to see that all the formalities are completed. And lastly, certainty and possibility of performance at any stage or point of time. Whenever we are entering into this particular contract and whenever we are closing the particular contract, we have to see that the contract that is to be performed, the contract that has to be undertaken, or the parties or the liabilities, rights and duties of the parties to the contract, they must be very certain which party has to perform which promise, which promise has to be performed by in what way, at what time, at what duration, in what proportion. Everything must be very certain and it must be written on paper. So everything, if all the terms and conditions of the contract are written in a perfect way, then accordingly we can say that the contract is certain. Next thing, possibility of performance. What does the possibility mean? Possibility stands for a certain concern wherein the contract must be able to be performed. We have to see at every stage or point of time, whenever we perform a particular promise, whenever we perform a respective contract, the contract must be able to be performed. So there should be a possibility. We cannot say that if certain things happen, if certain thing does not happen, then I may perform. So there should not be any condition that has to be laid. The contract will be or must be of a such a nature that both the parties, if they agree to the terms and conditions, they must be able to perform also. So in this way, there should be a possibility of performance for that particular contract also. For example, I'll quote you for this particular concern. There is a two person, that is Mr. A and Mr. B, and Mr. A has quoted a certain order to Mr. B to sell mangoes in the month of September. Now just identify the possibility of performance. What is the season of mangoes? The season of mangoes starts from February to March, February to May. And after June onwards, the amount of manufacturing or the production of the mangoes starts reducing. And accordingly, in the month of September, mangoes cannot be produced. So possibility of performance, whether this particular contract can be performed, is it possible to perform the contract in the month of September? It is not possible. Why? Because in the month of September, mangoes cannot be produced, it cannot be ripened, and accordingly, there can be no production or manufacturing of mangoes by the nature in the month of September. So accordingly, we have to see the possibility of performance. Another example, if you want to sell umbrella or raincoat in the winter season, it is not possible to perform these particular promises or this particular contract. So accordingly, we have to see which contract can be performed at what location, during what duration, during what time, at what place, and so on. So in this way, at every stage or point of time, what we have to see, the contract must be very certain, the terms and conditions must be clearly explained, all the parties must accept those terms and conditions, and accordingly, they must be able to perform that particular promise or that particular terms and conditions which has been mentioned. So that was the overview of essential elements of a valid contract. Any stage, during any point of time you feel any difficulty, please go back to all the essential elements, and if any of the single element, that is out of this 1 to 10, if any of the single element is not been fulfilled, then the contract is not perfect, legal and valid contract. So in terms of the eyes of law, into the court of law, your contract will not be accepted and the contract will be stands rejected. Now, next point is the concern of classification of contracts. So earlier we have seen how when a contract can be a perfectly legal valid contract. Now we'll come to the second perspectives about understanding what are the various different types of contracts. So classification of contracts. Major concern, the contracts have been majorly classified under 4 categories. These four categories are on the basis of mode or formation, on the basis of performance, on the basis of forms of contract, and lastly on the basis of validity or enforceability. So these are the major 4 head or 4 categories, and under these 4 categories, it has been subdivided further. Now let's look at each one of the particular subcategory in detail. First thing, on the basis of mode or formation. So first thing, out of those 4 categories, the first category that we are going to see is on the basis of mode or formation. So section 9 clearly explains about which are the different types of contract on the basis of mode or formation. First is the expressed contract, implied contract, and quasi contract. Expressed and implied is given under section 9, whereas quasi contract you have a definition under section 56 to 60. So the section for quasi contract is completely different and it has been inserted later. So earlier quasi contract was not into existence, but after several amendments, several changes in the ordinary course of business, the concept of quasi contract was been introduced. Now, express contract. Express contract is a particular type of contract under Section 9 of ICA, that is Indian Contract Act of 1872, which specifically means a contract which is in form of writing, wherein all the terms and conditions of the contract are expressly mentioned. Then that particular type of contract is called as an expressed contract, wherein all the terms and conditions of the contract are specifically written. That is, either you are saying that particular terms and conditions or you are writing that particular terms and conditions expressly to that particular seller or to that particular vendor or the retailer. That contract will be called as an express contract. Example, I was renovating my house, and for my renovation of this particular house, what I have done, I have placed a certain quotation with Vijay Sales or DMart. Now, whenever this particular quotation was been given in my email that has been dropped, or whenever I have approached that particular store, I have expressly, I have specifically, I have in written mentioned all the terms and conditions that when I want to purchase a refrigerator, that particular refrigerator must be of Whirlpool, it must be of a double door, it must be frost free, it must have a 5-star rating, it must be of a double door, and so on. So, and the liters of that particular refrigerator that I want to purchase. Now, here at this stage, what am I doing? I am expressly telling, I am specifically telling that particular trader or that particular vendor what are the conditions that has to be fulfilled.